I want to talk to you about inheritance tax as it relates to pensions. I'm going to start off with some practical information about the tax and then move on to more of an opinion piece, as I do have some opinions on this, and many of you, unfortunately, not going to like them. Now, it's important to do the practical bits first because I know through speaking to people via my website that a lot of angst is created about inheritance tax that comes often from a misunderstanding. For example, most of the people I chat to are in a couple and own a house. And once they realise that inheritance tax won't affect them really unless they're looking to pass on more than £1 million, then they kind of worry less, as they don't really have them kind of assets anyway. So let's canter through the rules. So let's run through the common changes to how pensions are treated for inheritance tax. Now, it's a subject that's been framed in some pretty dramatic terms, a tax on the young or even a tax on the dead. But reality is a bit more nuanced. So let's explore what's happening, why it's happening, and what it could mean for you and your family. The core issue is a policy announced in a recent UK budget. From April 2027, most unused pensions and death benefits will be included in the value of a person's estate for inheritance tax purposes. Now, this is a significant shift. For decades, a key benefit of pension savings was that for most people, they fell outside of their estate and could be passed on to beneficiaries free of inheritance tax. Now, this new rule changes that. The most controversial aspect of the change is its impact on those who die before reaching the normal pension age. And for most, that's currently 55. It was for me. And this is set to rise to 57 in April 28. Now, if someone passes away at, say, 40 years old, the pension pot, which they are legally barred from touching, could now be hit with a 40% inheritance tax bill if their overall estate is large enough. This has led to some very strong criticism from financial experts. They argue it's fundamentally unfair, and as one expert put it, charging IHT on an asset you have to accrue and are automatically enrolled into before retirement age is abhorrent. Now, the concern is that it penalises the families of those who had no chance to benefit from the savings. There's also the issue of a double tax hit. Now, if a saver dies after the age of 75, their beneficiaries also already have to pay income tax on pension withdrawals. And for higher rate taxpayer, this could mean an effective combined rate of well over 60%. When you factor in both the incomes and the inheritance tax, that is. In the government's decision to press ahead with this, despite the warnings, has been a major point of contention. So why is the government doing this? Their position is clear. They want to reinforce the original purpose of a pension. Pensions are a tax-advantaged saving vehicle designed to fund your retirement. Now, the generous tax relief you receive on contributions and investment growth is meant to incentivize you to save for your later years, not to create a tax-free vehicle for passing on wealth to your heirs. Our Treasury spokesman has confirmed this, stating that they want to incentivise pension savings for their intended purpose of funded retirements instead of them being openly used as a vehicle to transfer wealth. Now, the government estimates that a relatively small number of states, around 1.5% of total UK deaths, will be newly liable for inheritance tax due to this change. They believe that this measure corrects an imbalance that brings pensions in line with other inherited assets. Now, they've also been responsive to some concerns. For example, by exempting death in service benefits from the new rules, this isn't going to affect everyone. Now, inheritance tax is only levied on estates above a certain size. The nil weight band is currently £325,000 for a single person, or $650 for a married couple or civil partners. Now, On top of this, there's the residence nil rate band, which can add up to £175,000 per person if you leave the home direct to descendants. This means a married couple with a home could potentially leave up to £1 million to their children, completely tax-free. So the key takeaway is this: you need to understand where your personal situation fits within these rules. If your total estate, including your pension pot, is below these relevant thresholds, then you've got nothing to worry about. But if you do have significant assets, then these changes require you to potentially reevaluate your financial and estate planning strategies. So how do you navigate these changes? I mean, here's some legitimate strategies to think about. Assess your estate by getting a clear picture of your total wealth. Use the thresholds we just discussed to see if you're likely to be affected. Maybe lifetime gifting. So one of the most effective ways is to make gifts while you're still alive. You can give up to £3,000 each tax year without it being added to your estate. Now, there's also a generous exemption for gifts made from your surplus income, as long as you can prove it to HMRC. Now, a popular strategy might be to take out a life insurance policy and place it in a trust, and this provides a tax-free payout to your beneficiaries upon your death. But this can be used to cover any inheritance tax bill on your other assets. There's also a spousal exemption, and this is the simplest, most powerful exemption. Leave your estate to your spouse or your civil partner, and this is completely free of inheritance tax, and it also allows you to pass on your unused tax-free allowances to them, doubling their inheritance tax threshold. How about using your pension for retirement? The most straightforward way to avoid the tax is to use the pension for its intended purposes. Now, many savers with large pensions are now planning to spend more on holidays or maybe luxuries to draw down the funds during their lifetime, while being mindful of the income tax, obviously. Now, this is a dynamic situation. The government has confirmed that they're working with industry experts to refine the process for executives and beneficiaries, but it's clear that the days of pensions being a completely tax-exempt vehicle for wealth transfer are coming to an end. It's now more important than ever to have a bit of a plan for yourself, really. That accounts for all of your assets. So I'd love to hear from you what your thoughts are on these particular changes before I get into my thoughts on these. So if you do have any comments at this stage, leave them in the comments below. We often dream about what we would do with a massive inheritance. The kind of money that would mean we'd never have to work a day in our lives. We imagine the freedom, the travel, the luxury. But what if I told you that for some people, that exact dream becomes a nightmare? Now, I want to tell you about a character named Ben. Now, Ben grew up with everything: a mansion, private school, a trust fund that would make most of us dizzy. You didn't have to worry about rent, about bills, about a job that he hated. Now, his dad, Robert, worked his entire life to give him this and to give him a head start. But then Ben one day said to his father, "You didn't give me a head start. You made me start at the finish line." Think about that for a second. Ben has everything, but he's got no purpose. He never had to work for anything. He never had to fail. He never had to struggle. And struggle, as uncomfortable as it is, sometimes is what forges us. It's how we learn to get back up. It's how we find what we're truly capable of. Now, Ben's father thought he was giving him a safety net, but it became what they call a gilded cage, a beautiful, expensive prison. Now, Ben becomes a professional consumer, just buying things to fill a void. He's a ghost hunting his own life. Now, the moral of the story is simple. Money can give you a life without problems, but it can also take away a life without purpose, without the need to strive, to overcome, to build what we are. Now, this isn't to say money's bad, but an unearned fortune without any guidance or reason or work behind it can be soul crushing. It can make you feel like you've nothing to do with your life because you already have everything. Is it better to have a life of struggle and purpose or a life of ease with no particular clear direction? Now, from a second story, I want to talk about the incredible weight of doing absolutely nothing. Now, imagine you're an artist, you have a talent, a vision, but every time you sit down to create, a voice in your head says, "So, what if you fail? You don't need the money. You can just buy a new easel tomorrow and try again." Now, that's the core problem with unearned inheritance. It removes the stakes. Now, let's imagine two characters. We got Chloe and Liam, who are siblings. Now, Chloe is a socialite and an influencer who loves her life of no consequence. Now, Liam is the artist who can't bring himself to paint. Liam says to his sister, "Talent isn't enough. You have to be hungry. You have to want it so badly that you can't sleep." And that's the missing ingredient. The large inheritance removes that hunger for some. It also acts as an anchor. It holds you in place. You can't fail, so you never really learn how to succeed. Now, there's no pressure to find your passion because you'll be comfortable no matter what. And it feels like you're a professional consumer instead of a creator. Your life becomes more about spending money rather than making a mark on the world. Now, this isn't a life of freedom. It's a velvet cage. What's the danger? The real danger for me is that this complete lack of motivation, it's the slow, quiet erosion of your purpose. You might have the freedom to do anything, but you lack the drive to do anything at all. Um, this isn't just a hypothetical problem. Many children of extremely wealthy families talk about this as a very, very real struggle. The money is a constant reminder that you didn't earn your place in the world. So the question isn't what you can buy with that money, but what you lose. So I'm curious, if you had an unlimited safety net, what would you choose to do? Would you find purpose or would you find yourself in a gilded cage? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments.